Well, I didn't take very kindly to my girlfriend's treachery. I really did not. You know, let me just pause here and say that for me, Andre Battles, relationships were a big deal because it was what I lacked at home. So I could not find love, or at least the love that I expected to get at home. So my desire, my focus was to find that love out in the world. And when I got into a relationship, I took it very serious. From the very beginning, from my first girlfriend to the story I shared with you a few weeks ago, to even this particular story now with the Caucasian girlfriend that I was with, I take relationships serious, and not just relationships where there's intimacy involved. I take friendships rather serious. I'm the kind of friend, don't tell me that you're gonna call me. Don't tell me that you're gonna be there for me, because I expect that. I'm the kind of person that I expect for you to be true to our friendship. I think about a particular friendship in the Bible between two characters named David, and then there was Jonathan. And we know that Jonathan was Saul's son. Saul being the first king of Israel, whom David was running for his life from, because David was a righteous man, and Saul knew that David was next in line. Well, anyway, we know the story. For some of us, for the rest of us who don't know that story, David and Jonathan became very much concerned with one another's well-being. Most of the times our friendships, our relationships are quite superficial. What can you do for me? How can this relationship benefit me? Now, I want you to look a little closer at the story and realize that Jonathan had everything to gain in his father Saul capturing David and killing him. Because of course, Saul would die one day, and Jonathan, the son, would take the throne. So why on earth would Jonathan have any earthly affection towards David, a man who he knows is going to come in and take the throne? That's love. That's affection. That's consideration of others' feelings over the consideration of one's own feelings. And that was the kind of relationship David and Jonathan had. Some Bible writers felt that they were in such love that some Bible writers even suggest that there was a homosexual type thing going on. And I don't believe that. It's weird, however, in our world that we live in, to believe that two men could love one another so much that they are concerned with one another's well-being to the point where they put themselves to the side and consider what the other one needs. That is rather strange, and I can see why someone would consider that homosexual. But I'm going to tell you the truth. That was the kind of relationship that David had with Jonathan. And that's the kind of relationships that I seek to have with people. Now, I have a lot of acquaintances. There are a lot of people in my life that are just kind of there. But at the end of the day, really, I value true, genuine friendship. I value true, genuine relationships. And that's why I took all of my relationships with my girlfriends so very serious. Because somebody's thinking, well, hey man, you were in high school, give yourself a break. Give them a break. Hey, I mean, in high school, you don't really know what you want, right? Well, that's perhaps true for the vast majority of young people jumping in these relationships and then jumping out of them. For me, however, I was looking for love. I was looking for somebody to help quiet the storm up here. And so I was hoping that you would take my love as serious as I was willing to take yours. But this young lady, she wasn't about that. And I realized quickly after coming back home from Florida off of that trip at Disney World that homegirl ain't the one. You know, right after this happened, I remember that my mom and dad decided that we were about to pick up and move again. The year was 1999, the end of 1999. And man, if I had already lived in 8 to 9 different places, I hadn't lived in one. I mean, I'd already been all over the place. And if you followed this story, my story, then you know that I've jumped back and forth from America to the Bahamas already at least 3 times. Well, we were about to leave Dallas, Texas and move to Florida, South Florida. And we landed in a city in Deerfield Beach, Florida, which is 30 miles north of Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. So I was in the thick of things. I was very much close to the heart of Miami, where we lived in Deerfield Beach. Like I said, no more than 35, 40-minute drive from Miami to where I was living at this particular time. And it was the Christmas of 1999. If you are alive and older than 30, then you most likely remember the Y2K scare back in 1999, right before the new millennium came upon us. Everybody was afraid that computers would reboot, things would restart, nobody would be able to track data, that the whole system of the world would crash. You remember that if you're old enough to remember that. And I remember that was all the rave. Everybody talked about it. It was on the news. Almost every other broadcast was some Y2K, Y2K, Y2K. And of course, we had gotten caught up in that. We didn't know if it was a sign of the time. You know, growing up in a Christian home where at least Christian things were discussed and the awareness of Christ's soon return was talked about. That Y2K thing, that was a big deal. A lot of us thought that that was the onslaught of things to come. Okay. Anyway, the year 2000 rolled in. The ball dropped down at Times Square, New York, and we rolled into the year 2000 without pretty much any hiccup. For those of you that are old enough to remember, and you know, I consider that that was a great blessing, because the world was really on edge. And so it was a blessing to now be in the new millennium. The computer systems hadn't crashed. And here we were now living in Florida. I wasn't very happy with this move. I remember, although my heart had been broken with the young lady in Texas, I was still very much wanting to stay in Texas. I mean, hey, I had just gotten there. I had just left the Bahamas the summer of '98 and relocated to Dallas, where my mother, father, and sisters had come before me. So here now it is the year 2000, a little over a year and a half later from my trip from the Bahamas to Texas, and I'm already relocating again. That was my life. I promise you, it was stressful. And when the year 2000 rolled around, I had just turned 17. Now, I was beginning to lose all of my baby fat. I was beginning to lose some of the extra weight that had kind of hampered me and stuck with me throughout my adolescent years. And for that reason, I think maybe many of the young ladies weren't interested in me, because I was a fat boy. I was a bit overweight, and my chunkiness showed. I mean, I'm gonna just be real. But when 2000 rolled around, right before 2000, at the end of '99, I got a job working at Kroger's in Dallas, Texas. And I started exercising by pushing the carts from the parking lot into the grocery store. I started taking more attention to my appearance. Back at that time, Xenodrone RF1. How many of you remember that? It had just been released on the market. The General Nutrition Center, GNC, was selling it. And I had enough money to go and buy it because I had a little job. And I remember I read that it was going to help you lose weight. And I was very excited, thinking that, hey man, this might be the thing that gets me over the top. And so with my working out on the job, pushing the carts at Kroger's, I added to that regimen Xenodrone RF1. I went to GNC and purchased a bottle of it for like 70 bucks. And sure enough, I got the results. I started slimming down tremendously. And around this time, when we moved to Florida in 2000, oh man, Andre was new and improved, baby.